Get this man out of here. Daniel Carter's voice sliced through the soft morning chatter of the cafe like a blade. The barista froze mid-pour, customers turned their heads, and all eyes locked on the frail, shivering man sitting quietly in the corner. He was hunched over a paper cup of coffee, his hands trembling, clothes ragged, hair matted. A small, worn paper bag sat at his feet. The man didn't look up, he simply stared into the steam rising from his cup as if it held the last bit of warmth in his world. To Daniel, he was an eyesore. Not here, not in my cafe, he thought. Daniel Carter wasn't just any lawyer, he was the kind who walked into a courtroom and owned it. At 38, he had the city's most expensive suits, the sharpest mind, and a reputation for never losing a case. This cafe was his ritual. Every morning at 7:15 sharp, he ordered the same drink, sat at the same table by the window, and read the news while watching the city come alive. But today, this homeless man was ruining the view. Daniel signaled the cafe owner, Maria. "Why is he here?" he asked, lowering his voice but not his disgust. "You let people like that sit around, and soon your whole business will smell like them." Maria frowned. "He's not bothering anyone, Daniel. He paid for his coffee." Daniel scoffed. "With what? Pennies? Probably stole the money. Look, I come here for peace, not charity work. Get rid of him." The homeless man looked up at the commotion. His eyes were startling, a deep, piercing blue that seemed out of place with the rest of him. He didn't speak, didn't defend himself. Instead, he stood slowly, picked up his paper bag, and nodded once at Maria as if to thank her for allowing him to sit for as long as he had. Daniel smirked, satisfied. "Good. Back to my coffee." But something in those blue eyes lingered in his mind longer than he expected. 5 minutes later, the bell above the cafe door jingled again. 2 uniformed police officers burst in, scanning the room. One of them, Officer Ramirez, looked directly at Maria. "Did a man in his late 60s come in here? Tall, thin, wearing a brown coat, carrying a small paper bag?" Maria blinked. "Yes, he was just here." She shot a sharp glance at Daniel, but someone told him to leave. The taller officer stepped forward. "That man is Thomas Bennett. We've been searching for him for 2 days. He's a decorated war hero, saved dozens of soldiers during the Carter Bridge bombing in '92. He's also a Medal of Honor recipient. He went missing from a veterans hospital and hasn't had his medication. We need to find him immediately." Daniel's coffee cup slipped in his hand, splashing hot liquid onto his expensive suit. He didn't even notice. Thomas Bennett. Daniel knew that name. His father had talked about him, about how the man had pulled injured soldiers from burning rubble while enemy fire rained down. About how the mayor himself had owed his life to Thomas Bennett. And Daniel had just thrown him out, like garbage. The cafe seemed to close in on him. He pushed past the officers, out into the street, scanning frantically. Rain had started to fall, and the morning crowd had thickened, but there was no sign of the man. For the next hour, Daniel combed the streets. He checked alleys, bus stops, park benches, anywhere a homeless man might go for shelter. His expensive shoes splashed through puddles. His tailored suit was soaked. But none of it mattered. Every face he passed was wrong. Every shadow he chased dissolved into a stranger. As he searched, a memory came unbidden. Daniel had been 8 years old when a man had stopped his family's car on the highway. Their tire had blown, and his father was struggling to fix it. That man had been tall, thin, with piercing blue eyes. He had changed the tire, refused any payment, and simply said, "We look out for each other." Daniel had never forgotten those eyes. Now, he realized they were the same ones he had seen in the cafe. Finally, near the edge of the park, Daniel spotted a figure hunched under a bus shelter. The brown coat, the paper bag, it was him. Daniel approached slowly. "Mr. Bennett?" The man looked up, eyes narrowing in recognition. "You're the one who wanted me gone," he said quietly. Daniel swallowed hard. I was wrong. I didn't know who you were." Thomas shook his head. Didn't matter who I was. You saw what you wanted to see. Daniel felt something heavy settle in his chest. Please, the police are looking for you. You need help, your medication. Thomas sighed. Been fine without it longer than I should have. People forget about you after a while. Daniel's voice cracked. I'm sorry. I judged you without a thought. Let me make it right. Daniel convinced Thomas to come with him. He flagged down the officers still searching nearby, and together they drove him back to the Veterans Hospital. On the way, Thomas told stories not of war, but of people. The soldiers he'd fought alongside, the strangers who had shown him kindness in his years on the street. Daniel listened, ashamed of how small he had been in comparison to this man's courage. At the hospital, the chief doctor thanked Daniel for bringing Thomas back. As they wheeled him inside, Thomas glanced over his shoulder. Next time, he said, look twice before you decide who someone is. Daniel never forgot those words. From that day forward, whenever he saw someone on the street, he didn't just walk past. He looked. He listened. And sometimes, he bought 2 coffees instead of 1,